move to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
All right, I want to get right to the point. The illicit fentanyl epidemic is not receiving the attention it needs. That's what this bill is about. In my own home county, fentanyl kills at least one person every day. And I'm pretty taken aback by, I think, the casual tone some of my colleagues have taken about this crisis. Just earlier, it was stated that if it weren't for demand, well, then weren't for demand for drugs, then this wouldn't be a problem. So, I mean, what does that make this? The victim's fault? You know, God forbid we actually take the fight to the dealers and the cartels who lace street drugs with deadly fentanyl and kill teenagers who thought they were taking a Xanax or an Adderall. Is it the dead teenagers' fault? Not the dealers? Not the cartels? Is there really no consideration of the fact that the supply creates the demand here? Because it does. One of my colleagues just stated that it's not the cartels killing Americans, it's Americans trafficking fentanyl and killing Americans. That statement was not only false and deceptive, but kind of horrific. And I hope the families of tens of thousands of young people poisoned by fentanyl are listening to this hearing so they could hear all that. I've heard that this bill could inadvertently punish someone who has quote-unquote harmless analogs of fentanyl. I mean, what kind of person are we talking about? What scenario are we imagining there? It's an absurd idea. This bill is simple and it should easily be bipartisan. It's about deterrence. Criminal penalties can have a meaningful impact on criminal behavior. As a 2021 report from GAO reviewed law enforcement officials and found that class-wide scheduling had reduced the incentives to make new and existing fentanyl substances. Schedule I classification simply allows prosecutors to pursue the appropriate penalty for the crime and sends a clear message to drug traffickers and cartels that we mean business. The U.S. Sentencing Commission data for fiscal year 2021 released last year shows that the average sentence for fentanyl trafficking was just over 4 years. 4 years. So that's less than some people get for robbery. Does that seem right, given that 70,000 people plus are murdered every year because of this? Given the purposeful poisoning in our communities? Given the scourge that is inflicting on our country? Is 4 years really enough to punish those facilitating this crisis? Law enforcement needs the legal tools to prosecute the manufacturing, distribution, and sale of fentanyl, and any uncertainty about the penalties for these crimes will only embolden them. The cartels and their Chinese suppliers are purposefully facilitating this crisis to destabilize our country and harm our citizens. Inaction on the part of Congress would be a glaring dereliction of duty, and I ask all members of this committee to support this common sense policy in a bipartisan way, and with that I yield.
Would the gentleman yield? Gentleman yield before he yields?
I'll yield.
Back?